money over time and energy, of course, but this is something that's actually a deal. In some cases, these are attractive investments. So we need to get the word out, and we will need to develop specific campaign events and outreach and public education events online and in person, and perhaps do a little bit of media to advertise it. And then we'll be directing people to our website, which will also direct people to the Heat Smart Capital Region website, and they will be tracking through those companies they work with. They'll be able to track what comes of our campaign in terms of people signing up and actually executing on upgrades for their homes. And we need to get to 10 as a 10 signups. That's right, Tara? 10 in order to qualify for the $15,000 NYSERDA grant. That's as the county, as a large municipality. There are towns as well who are going to be piggybacking on this, and we'll be scoping document and our resolution with those towns so they can, some have already kind of moved forward, so they can get their campaigns up and running. And any resident within that town also qualifies for the town's points. They need 5 to get a $5,000 grant. Is that right, Tara? So if someone in Germantown signs up, if 5 people sign up there, Germantown will get credit and they will qualify for a grant, and those 5 people also count toward the county numbers. So we're trying to facilitate this, like we did with the solar campaign, this collaboration between the towns and the county climate smart task forces, so we can streamline and move things along quickly. But what I want, our subcommittee, which is the same subcommittee that worked on the solar campaign, we'll need to get back together to, and we'll schedule something following this call to plan out some of these events and to provide feedback on the Heat Smart Capital Region website and our website, which we'll be directing people to, and any other kind of media outreach we want to try to do. But I wanted to open this up now for questions, but also for suggestions, any kind of ideas. So Brenda, Supervisor Adams.
Um, Brenda's fine. I just had a question about this is for either residential or commercial heat pumps, right?
Yeah, I'm going to just ask Tara to confirm that, but I believe that's true.
Correct. The only thing that does not count is if your municipal building installs a heat pump, because that's a separate NYSERDA action, but anything else counts.
And what about a library? Is that considered a municipal building?
I believe it will be, yeah, because you guys could get credit for that under a separate action in the program.
Okay. And the other thing is, I was just hoping, I'd love to work with someone on a handout for Columbia Opportunities, DSS, underserved populations, something in writing that we can get to people. Those are people that are harder to get to at community tabling events or that sort of thing. So something that we could specifically provide as a handout would be terrific.
All right. Well, we will put that on the list for the subcommittee to focus on as well, and we'll work with Christina at the Capital Region Heat Smart program to see if they have anything or if we can develop something. So thank you, Brenda. Steve.
Hi there. A couple things, Tara. I don't know if you're responsible for it, but I clicked through on many of the links on the Heat Smart Capital Region. Where is it here? I think it was under the clean heating. Let's see. Hold on a sec. Anyway, there were dead links to NYSERDA.
Okay, I'll get in touch with Christina about that because she manages the website now.
Yeah, and there was like about 10 of them.
Okay, thanks for the heads up there.
And also, so basically, by just going with all of the providers that have been qualified by the Heat Smart Capital Region program, we're not going to then go back and ask them for incentives for the county. David?
That's a good question. I don't know what I know what we've done with solar and what we've been able to get. We'll update folks on that in a minute, in terms of incentives to the company. What is the, Tara and Steve, both of you have a lot more experience than I do. What's the expectation, in these campaigns of these in terms of incentives, on top of, providing the technology and getting out there and doing these audits?
Well, I can only speak to RICOR. They've offered $100 to the, per sign up to the county. And I think residential as well, residents as well.
Okay. I think this is a question for Christina and for the Heat Smart campaign. I do think we can contact the companies directly, but I'm not sure. Uh, we're not directly kind of agreeing to work with a particular company, but rather work with these pre-approved companies. I'm not sure whether it's going through through the campaign, or directly contacting them. But we've got hands up, so hopefully those are going to answer this question. Susan first.
Yeah, this is not an answer, but I just want to mention, or it's a sort of a suggestion, about the incentives that are available and how they are described during the promotional part of the campaign. Just my own personal experiences, I just installed 2 air source heat pumps and did not qualify for much, just about $200, which I ended up not taking because it seems stuff gets complicated fast, but it seems because I did not take my furnace out and there was one room for very boring reasons wasn't a good candidate for heat pumps. So my whole house is not heated by air source heat pumps anyway. So I didn't qualify for much and I didn't go into it. I would have done this anyway, and I was well aware of what the price would be when I signed the contract. But just in terms of how we promote it to people, I think we just have to be careful to manage expectations, not depending on people's homes. They're old homes. These homes are quirky. They may not get these big incentives. So that's just my my little suggestion.
Yeah, that's good. We need to, this committee, our subcommittee needs to meet and needs to really scrutinize the website and look at whether that information is robust enough. It's providing enough, like, for example, examples for people to say, oh, this is a heat pump, a hot water heater, or the mini splits or what have you, and look at their situation. But you're right, Susan, there are so many different variables. I do know, and I'm sure Tara can comment on this, that for lower income people, there are generous incentives to help with some of these costs. At least I believe that's the case. I don't know if Tara or Steve want to speak to that.
Not yet, unfortunately.
Oh.
Yeah, there actually is some good funding coming through the Inflation Reduction Act, is what we're hearing, but there's still, that's a 2023 thing. So I think we're going to see some good incentives for low and moderate income folks. Right now, the incentives are across the board for all, basically whoever you are, it's not income based. So that's the way it looks right now. But again, 2023, we're hoping to see how that is interpreted at the state level, which is just a matter of how the funding is allocated.
Okay. Well, that's helpful. And I think it's going to be important for our committee and then our task force as a whole to be active and proactive and not just sit back. Oh, there's a website, Heat Smart Capital Region is updating it. As Steve said, there's some dead links. So we'll want to really make sure that it's providing the information that we want. And if it's not, then we have to add that to our website or work with them. But these are all really important comments. I know that Wendy had her hand up as well. So I want to hear.
Tara actually was she just was talking about the incentives, which is what I was just going to touch base on. I popped into this meeting about maybe a minute and a half after you started. So I kind of missed the introduction with Ms. Phillips. So Jennifer, I just wanted to say hi and welcome. And also Supervisor Adams, I will reach out to Christina today. I did not have her come to the meeting today. I'll make introductions so that you can speak with her directly in regards to the flyer that you want to produce.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? Obviously, you can communicate to me and to Wendy, and we will convene a group, our subcommittee. So everyone in the subcommittee, you're on notice that you'll be getting an email from either Wendy or I to set up that meeting and talk about the details of looking at the website and moving forward with events and outreach. Any other comments before we move on? Brenda.
The the additional incentives that are coming online, or do you think that'll be early in next year? How much of this campaign should we frame in advance of those incentives coming online? Is what I'm trying to understand. Are the incentives going to change dramatically after the first of the year because of new federal funds or state funds?
We just haven't had interpretation yet on what that looks like. And honestly, passing off the heat smart program to the Affordable Housing Partnership, I haven't really dug into what those would look like, but being on a few webinars about that, it's pretty clear to me that they're gonna find a way to offer incentives, or there is money. It's just a matter, I think the way it works with the federal funding is it gets, each state gets their pot, and then they have to figure out how to manage that and how they want to, what agency they want to funnel that through and what makes the most sense for using those funds. And I don't think that has been hammered out yet. So my suggestion is to go ahead with the existing incentives until some clarity is provided by the state on what that looks like.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Great. Anything else? This is great. We're moving to our second clean energy campaign, and that's exciting. And I think this is I think Supervisor Adams' comments about outreach to underserved communities is really important. As we tried to stress, at least in the solar campaign, but there are it'll be even more important for us to have the latest information on these incentives and also the articulate in clear ways what the opportunities are for folks, because if they can if the financing or the incentives are there to help install, this is really a lot of money that can be saved over the life of these systems. So I hope we can make some progress there. Terrence.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to say this out loud, hoping that I remember when we meet with our subcommittee. But going along with Brenda's comment, if there's a way for us to contact or get directly in touch with landlords, that might be helpful as well. Since a lot of folks in those situations might not be in control of their own living places. If there are landlords who are ready to upgrade systems anyway, it'd be good for them to know about this.
It's a great point. And I would love to hear if people have thoughts on some strategy for doing that. But the example that was given at the EMC meeting the other night was one of our members of the EMC was talking about she's got 2 rental units and she decided to upgrade and put the heat pump hot water heater in, and it was affordable for her. So it was a great example that you could bring to other people. It made economic sense for her because she needed to do something. She needed to upgrade or replace the system that was there. Didn't cost her any more to do that with the incentives. That's before the Inflation Reduction Act. It might even get better. And she's saving her tenants money on their electric bills. So yeah, that's if it's not going to cost people more, landlords, and they need to upgrade. How do we communicate to people in a strategy, though, other than just trying to get the word out? Is there any kind of targeted approach we could have? And we can continue this in the subcommittee, but if anyone has any ideas, that'd be great.
The other class that I would add to that are property managers. I know, oftentimes they're called in to diagnose or fix heating systems and then have to make recommendations about replacements. So if they were to be aware of this, so I think we should target them as well.
Okay, it's on our list. So we'll brainstorm this and maybe one thing that we were talking about again at the MC meeting is writing up articles and starting to just tell stories about how these experiences have played out for people in the community, and we could focus on that story and really highlight this targeted at property managers and landlords. So this is great. Thank you. Okay, so now on to the next item, which is the greenhouse gas inventory for government operations. Now, we talked about this at the last meeting. Just to refresh everyone, Wendy, do you want to do this? I'm happy to give kind of an overview, or if you want to do it, I don't want to. Okay, great. So last year, thanks to Wendy's leadership, we conducted a benchmarking exercise, which was to look at all the municipal buildings and look at the energy use in the buildings. The greenhouse gas inventory goes one step further. This is still restricted to government operations, not community-wide, which is a goal of ours eventually. But this will look beyond at fuels used for transportation. It'll look at things like water treatment. It'll look at landfills, things like that, anything that's owned by the municipality. And after speaking with Wendy and Wendy doing more research, it's Wendy, please, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in terms of the burden that this represents to you and to the county government, in terms of how hard it will be to gather this additional information. It's a necessary, not a required step. It's a necessary step along this path of going toward building up an actual coherent climate action plan, which would allow us to prioritize all of these different actions and others, and really think about goals over a period of time for both the county government and for the community. It's a parallel to the adaptation plan that we're already embarking on. Adaptation will allow us to look at opportunities in infrastructure and public health concerns to make sure that we're prepared for changes that are occurring and we are likely to occur in the future. This greenhouse gas inventory is a prerequisite and a precursor to being able to come up with a mitigation strategy for reducing emissions in the county and doing our part. So, Wendy, do you want to speak to this?
Sure. So, I mean, we did touch briefly last month on the landfill thing, and Tara did send some information on that. And it looks to me like the information that she specifically sent to me is information that we do have. Obviously, we need to know our fuel consumption. We have fuel pumps. So this is information that we will be able to gather. I think it'll be much easier than the information gathering for the benchmarking. And since the benchmarking is already done, that's a plus. So this is definitely something that we can consider moving forward.
Great. Any other thoughts or comments? I drafted, I sent it in our email. We can look at that and then consider it. Let me just pull it up here. Can I share? I don't know, Oswaldo, if I can share. Let me just see here. A window. Let me see if I can. Oops. Give me a minute. Sorry. Tech. Can't share your screen. Okay, let me try it again. Hold on. Can't do it. Okay, well, everyone should have it. So I can read it, or perhaps Oswaldo can pull it up, or someone else that does have access. Aha, Wendy. Perfect. So there we have it. It's pretty straightforward. And happy to take any comments on it. Happy to read it if people haven't had a chance to read it. But it basically says that the Climate Smart program encourages municipalities to conduct greenhouse gas inventories of government operations to account for, analyze, and report on the greenhouse gas emissions resulting from day-to-day operations of the county, including from the consumption of energy and materials in government buildings, waste from wastewater and water treatment facilities, municipal vehicle fleets, and government-owned outdoor lighting. I don't think the county has much of that, and from other sources. It's a foundational step toward effective action by providing the data needed to set realistic goals and track progress towards reducing operating costs, energy use, and emissions. So the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, thank you, Tara, once again, for all your help on all of these things, provides technical assistance and other tools and resources to communities in support of the inventories. So there's a data component, which Wendy has spoken to and has thought about, and we appreciate that lift from the county operations to pool the data to obtain it. And then there's the formulas and the algorithms that are used or the models rather, that are used to come up with the projections or the calculations. And that is something that Tara and CDRPC assist with, free of charge to the county. I'm not sure what the timing will be on this and how long this takes, but we would like to get started on it in the new year, and that's why we have this resolution. So we're asking that, we're requesting that the county adopt a resolution to conduct the greenhouse gas inventory of government operations. I have to add that in there, and to authorize the task force to work with county officials and the CDRPC to implement the project, including making the inventory report available to the public. Any comments?
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution as is.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Brenda has a question or a comment.
No, my question is this is a baseline inventory. Do we have to do an annual update?
I think, is it every 5 years, Tara, or?
Yeah, usually, so with benchmarking, ideally you want to have the annual data in there, but with greenhouse gas inventories, you want to do it on a regular basis. So say every 5 years, so you can better understand trends in kind of a larger scale than year to year. So ideally 5 years is a good recommendation.
So is that something that should be included in the resolution, that there are regular updates associated with this information?
Yep, I'm going to add it at the end, including making the inventory report available to the public and updating the inventory on a regular basis.
Okay. Does that work for you, Ron?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, any other thoughts, comments, questions?
I'll second then.
Great, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, please just speak up because I can't see everyone. Oh, wait, Matthew, okay, let me just pause. Clear your hands. Thank you, thank you. So anyone opposed, speak up or raise your hand. Great, it passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. And mostly thank you to Wendy and Tara, who will be doing the heavy lifting here. And this is just a great example of why, Wendy, what the work you're doing is so important to moving this forward. This is where the rubber hits the road. We can sit here and talk all we want about what we want to have happen in the county, but the fact that the county has decided to put resources forward and hopefully we'll continue to do that and see the value of doing it is really instrumental, because otherwise we wouldn't be, maybe we could do this, do it from the outside, trying to obtain this data and not necessarily always having the buy-in that not only the board as a whole has provided to this program, but also in particular the 4 supervisors that are on the task force. So thank you all. I don't think there's much to update on the next item, but Tara, if you have anything, the CARP, it's not fish, it's the Climate Adaptation Resilience Plan. Tara, you want to give us a quick update?
Sure, just that I think since the last meeting you guys have or if you're on this call and you're also a representative from a community, you would have received an email from me connecting you with Connor Young at Cornell Extension, who's the lead for this process, and Audrey Kropp, who is also the lead, to kind of hand off that process to them. They're going to be taking it forward from here. I believe their goal was to do some individual outreach to the leads and kind of just get in touch with you and, you know, hear your story or how you want to, you know, be a part of this process, and then a kickoff meeting soon. I'm not sure if that's happening this month or in the start of the new year, but you should hear more from them very soon.
Great. Excellent. And how many, we have almost all of our towns and villages have signed on to directly participate, and those that haven't will indirectly benefit. But what is the number? Do you know offhand, Tara?
16, including that includes the county. So
Yeah, that's great. That's like 3/4 or so, or more. So that's really fantastic. Okay. If there's anything else on that, I don't think there is. Just speak up. Campaign is wrapping up at the end of the year. We had set a deadline, and we are really kind of at a logical end anyway, given the fact that there's limited capacity where there's demand from people who would like to subscribe, which is unfortunate. This doesn't mean we can't launch something like this similarly in the future again, regardless of whether we get additional points or not. It's something that we can advertise, and if there is an opportunity to do so, or something similar. But we do have some preliminary numbers on how many subscribers have signed up throughout the county, also participated, and we have a sense of what that means in terms of the bonuses that will be given to the municipalities from the solar providers. Wendy, do you want to just give us a quick update there? I believe it's 16 from Nexamp, right? And from Communities, Neighborhood Sun. We just talked about this yesterday.
I know, it's over 100, I believe, is what her email said, but that email is a little dated. I plan on reaching
110. That's what you said yesterday.
110. Yeah. I'm going to reach out to Cara later in this month, just with the proper paperwork that the company needs to provide for us. So then in the January meeting, you'll have the final number.
And if you recall, we agreed to split that with the towns that are participating for those towns that where the subscriber resides in that town. It's a little different for both companies. Neighborhood Sun is transparent and is providing the information to us as to who signed up, or at least maybe not names, but the location, the zip code, so we can. And in fact, they, I believe, have offered to. We'll have to clarify and confirm this, to send checks directly of, let's say, someone in Germantown signs up, and they count toward the county and the town in terms of NYSERDA and the numbers. They will receive the subsidy is $100 per subscriber from the company. They would receive $50, and the county would receive $50. And so if we're looking at 110 subscribers, we don't know offhand how many of those are in towns that participated and are not. If they're not in a town, the county would get the entire $100 for that subscriber. If they are, then that would be split. So it's likely that the county will receive somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000 from Neighborhoods Sun rate, and we can put that to other good work. Unfortunately, Nexamp is not as transparent, and so they will not provide us that information. Wendy and I have a proposal for how we think we can do this fairly. It's only 16 subscribers, but take that $1,600, split it in half, take 800 of it, and just divide that evenly among the 5 towns that participated. So we want to put that out there. It seems fair, equitable, and if there's no objection, we'll proceed with the paperwork and the invoicing to make that happen. Brenda, I see your hand up.
That seems fair to me, and it also would allow us to get that done in a timely way. I'm wondering if there's any joy in reaching out to all of the towns that did solar campaigns and understanding what the total sign up was for the various towns, as well as the county effort. because I think it might give us a sense of what the, the real interest was. Some of the towns were on board sooner than the county campaign started, but that number might swell to 1,000 if we were to know what it is.
That's a great idea. Yeah, we should know what the total of all of these communities solar represents, trying not to, double count with some of the overlap. But yeah, we could track that down.
And I think it'd be important if we're talking, I mean, I'm still talking to NYSEG here, to be, from an advocacy point of view, to let them know that, we left a lot of people behind on the table because they were interested, but there was not capacity for them to sign up. So this might help with advocacy and incentives to get, more solar farms online.
Yeah, I'm curious what the if the logjam is something to do with the utility not being hospitable, or it's just something to do with the pipeline, the demand outstripping the pipeline of projects, and that's as simple as that, and their difficulty in actually citing these projects or something along those lines. Susan.
Yeah, I wanted to add, this is sort of different, but our town was approached by Ampion, a company in the community solar area, to about something called opt-out community solar. It's sort of this hybrid between community solar and community choice aggregation. They made a presentation to our board. I mean, the idea is that the entire town would sign on and everybody's meters would be community solar unless they affirmatively opted out, and they would all get that 10% discount. So we're in the exploratory stage. I mean, on paper, it sounds great. It would be really impactful, and you would, you get a whole lot more people supporting community solar. There are concerns about what you were mentioning, David, about capacity by the time we came online, whether they really could serve our entire town. And it has this business model has not yet been approved by the Public Service Commission. So there's that wrinkle. So, but I just mention it as, I mean, we'll continue to look into it and maybe we'll go forward. The county, though, as the next step, might want to also, I'm not sure how it would work on the county level, because I'm wondering if every single town would have to do it separately, or if the county could commit to all its residents being in community solar. So listen, this animal is out there, and exactly how it's going to play out, I'm not sure, but I want to mention it.
Thank you. Steve?
We also got approached by Ampion regarding that as well. But what do you have down there, Susan? And do you have NYSEG?
No, we're Central Hudson. Everybody's Central Hudson there. We don't have that problem of two utilities.
Yeah. Well, we are primarily NYSEG here in New Lebanon, and they have been not the best in terms of service with community solar, regards to community solar. So we're actually drafting a letter now of complaint to the Public Service Commission over them, because everything is manual, and customers are getting bills, whatever, 6 months after starting, and you can imagine people on limited budgets having to deal with that. So I would just say be cautious in terms of, as you've indicated the potential problems with that. If they don't have the capacity, it's going to be a big problem. And then the automated billing is definitely an issue. And I know that there have been issues with Central Hudson as well. So,
yeah, Central Hudson, it's not, I honestly, and I have been involved in this stuff for a while. I do not understand the billing and what's going on. So yeah, Central Hudson's been not easy to understand what they're doing. No question.
Brenda? Steve?
So Susan or Steve, did Ampion mention whether or not this was moving through the state legislature? I understood that there was a bill in both houses of the legislature to do this statewide. Did they talk about that at all?
No, that's news to me. They just mentioned it was, I'm not the primary contact with them, so I
Right.
should qualify that. I'm getting information through. But what came to me is that it just needed to be approved by the Public Service Commission. I didn't hear anything about the legislature.
And the other thing is, when I talked to NICE, I've tried to put Ampion and NICEG together, and my understanding is that the last two solar farms that came online for NICEG were diverted to commercial purposes. So they had originally expected that they would be used for residential business, but they were diverted to commercial applications. So that was part of the lag, at least in our area. I don't know about other areas.
Mhm.
Matthew.
Hi, yeah, I think Germantown was approached as well with this. I remember hear details, but I do remember we discussed it as a committee and there was a few red flags. And I think one of the things was it just kind of took the autonomy away from us. Like they offered to do all the paperwork, which sounds good, but there was just something about it. I can't remember exactly what turned us off. But I would take Steve's advice and just approach it with caution because read the fine print on that agreement. And the agreement with the state might have, had something to do with it. I don't know. There was something about it that Germantown that we just kind of said, no, we're going to pass.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Tara?
Yeah, just that confirming that Susan was right about the Public Service Commission has to approve this model basically to enable it to move forward, and they haven't done that yet. It keeps getting pushed back. It was supposed to be the summer, it was supposed to be October. I've been in touch with it's actually an item in the Clean Energy Communities program that communities can get points for, but it's not an actionable item yet. So it's a little funny. NYSERDA is behind the idea, but there isn't anything a community can do about it. But the biggest issue that keeps coming up over and over again in all the meetings and kind of think meetings we're doing is just that idea that Susan mentioned about capacity. Like once you sign up a whole town all at once, then how do you, there's not enough solar farms out there basically to manage that demand. And it'll take a while, it'll take years to get everybody on board. So it is a good model. It would be run just like a CCA would. So same concept of like, there's an outreach and education piece, and each town would be enabling of this legislation. So the county could not enable it because they don't have, home rule authority basically. So the smallest municipal level, the village, the city, the town would need to enable.
It seems kind of odd to me that if it's going to be this blanket imposition, and I'd be in favor of the imposition, obviously, but that you would end up with not doing it a different way, perhaps, like a renewable portfolio standard for the utilities, like having why not force the utilities to say you must source, as opposed to making this like a third party that consumers have to be engaged with on top of the utility. It's pretty convoluted if the goal is to mandate it statewide. And there are plenty of examples of the RPS in use throughout the world to move toward a higher renewable level of renewables. So, but I guess this is above our pay grade. We're just a county task force. Interesting. So thank you for the update and the information. It's interesting. The solar campaign will wrap up. We'll follow up and we'll collect the payments, make sure they get distributed appropriately. And then that leads us to the next point, which is grant accounting. We haven't yet raised that much as a committee, but we're starting to, which is great news. I mean, we're nowhere near New Lebanon, for example, which is like sets the gold standard for collecting grants. But we did receive the $5,000, or will soon. We were approved to for the benchmarking that Wendy conducted last year, and we will be getting these payments from the companies for the solar. So we'll have $10,000 to $15,000 in money that will come in the early part of the next year, and we can start once we know what that is and what the restrictions are from the NYSERDA grant, for example. We can start talking about ways that we may want to spend that money or recommend to the to the board to spend that money on projects that we want to initiate. So that is just something to keep in mind. We'll get back to. But I wanted to talk about a specific opportunity, which is a big one. And if we're set up, I think we're much better positioned to take advantage of it this year, which are these annual DEC Climate Smart grants, which typically open in, I think, April or May, and the deadlines are typically in July. And we could, for example, write a grant for any number of activities that, these are tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, these grants. They can go towards infrastructure type projects. They can go towards renewable energy. They can go towards an innovative greenhouse gas inventory for the entire county, the entire community, for example. So I wanted to see if there's any interest, well, any discussion, obviously, on this from anyone that's been involved in applying for these grants. But if there's any interest in forming a group, an exploratory group, to start looking at the types of grants that we might be interested in applying for, and then helping out with actually writing the grant application and proposal. And if you are interested, let me know, because I think this is an opportunity that we really don't want to pass up. And I also just wanted to find out what the procedure would be with the county for us to move forward, given that there are these tight timelines. Not tight, I mean, we would have 7 or 8 months from now, but so if we could hear from, I don't know if Wendy or any of the supervisors have any sense of how we might proceed with this. First, we need to figure out what we'd want to apply for, I imagine. But Steve.
These are all matching grants, right?
Are they all matching grants?
I think so.
Yes, there's a 50% match.
Okay. So that obviously means that, we would be, for example, limited perhaps to what our grant account amounting to at that point in time. Perhaps at that point, we'll have gotten the NYSERDA grant for the Heat Smart campaign. So that would, give us a significantly larger amount, anywhere from 10 to 25,000 that we might have raised by that point. And whether there's interest in the county putting resources towards a match, that's also something we need to explore. These are good opportunities to raise funds, especially for projects that are either already happening or planned, or something that is desired. So be great to have a continual conversation, perhaps offline, with and anyone that's on this task force who is experienced with applying for these grants, to identify things that we might want to apply for. Jolene.
Yeah, I've written a number of grants for the county, and actually we have 2 of them submitted right now. One for our food scrap program annually for our hazardous waste. We also have some infrastructure grants for some new projects that we did up here for recycling. The only setback, like you mentioned, is going to be that a lot of these times with these programs, you have to pay for the project upfront and then be reimbursed 50%. So if it's not in the budget for the county, we may be restricted. So we really have to vet the grant prior to doing it to see how that's going to play out.
Thanks. Yes. Brenda.
Jolene or others, are any of the grants, or Jolene, are either the grants that you described part of this DEC Climate Smart program?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And so there's no limit to the number of grants to
Nope.
applications?
No, as long as you're going to do the project or have completed the project, depending on how the grant is written. EPA grants are a little different than New York State DEC grants. So like I said, you'd probably need a few people on the committee. I'd be happy to assist in vetting the grants, just because I've done so many of them for the county, to see, you've got to check all the boxes. So as long as we check all the boxes and we have the funding available for the project, we should be able to go through with it.
Thank you.
Are there projects, I guess one of the questions is, are there projects that are already budgeted that would be in our domain here, you know, climate smart related activities that we could potentially bring some, you know, 50% match into and reduce the expenditure the county has to make on that project, or make the project actually happen, but it has to be budgeted. Supervisor Knott.
Yes, and this is a good time, David. You and I spoke yesterday or the day before on some of the projects the county is doing. And here's where the county's been actively trying to spend the money that we are budgeting and or we could potentially receive in any of these grant projects. Well, let me go over a couple quick ones. The project that's ongoing right now is we're doing a large energy up at our DMV and treasurer's office. As you know, DMV is tied to the treasurer's office and real property office at North 6th Street building. So those two buildings were look one project, and there we're replacing all the interior lighting, we're replacing all the exterior lighting, installing a new energy management system, replacing doors and windows, replacing boilers, replacing rooftop units, adding mini splits, a heat pump, hot water heater, replacing AC systems that exist, variable speed loop pumps, and cooling towers, replacing steam radiator systems, and replacing the entire roof and adding insulation to it. That project is just shy of $2 million or so, and much of that, yes, there's a $65,000 NYSERDA grant that will help offset it, but the county is footing the bill for that. Of course, we do look at those things generating cost savings in the future, you know, to help pay for the bond, but we're putting money towards it. So if we could write a grant and capture some of that, you know, I think that's money that's already budgeted. Some of the other projects I think I've talked to you about, we do have a large solar project to be installed at the DPW highway garage on Route 23. That's 186 kW solar project. It's all set and ready to go. We're still working on some connection issues with National Grid because that's a remote net metering type system, much like a solar field. That project that's projected to produce us $20,000 a year in energy savings, but by the time we put a new roof on in order to support the solar as well as the solar, it's an $890,000 project. And again, that money is budgeted, but if we can offset the county share of it with any of these projects, that's a great thing. That project in itself is set to reduce our CO2 by 146 metric tons a year, as well as the energy savings. We're also busy on developing a project for next year that we do have in the budget, and that's not adopted yet, but we are looking next at the DSS building. For those of you that may be familiar with that, we're looking there at chiller replacements, boiler replacements, air handler replacements, building management system, envelope upgrades as far as recaulking and sealing of windows, new gutters, downspouts, a new roof with high density insulation so that it too could support 120 kW roof mounted solar photovoltaic system for that building, which would offset about 50% of the energy costs for that building. That's not a remote net metering. We can use all that energy right there in that building, you know, even with the upgrades. And I think that project is budgeted at just shy of $2 million right now. Again, there's plenty of ways that the county has money budgeted for some of these capital projects. And it's easy to apply any of this grant money towards those projects. If there was an opportunity, and I know as Jolene spoke, I mean, she's constantly looking at some of these DEC grants as far as energy. We looked at some the other day, and she's looking at a different one for EPA. But yeah, I'm happy if the committee sees one of these things that can offset energy costs. These are projects that are budgeted, they are ready to go. And if we can offset costs for the taxpayers, we're happy to look at doing that.
That is great. Has this been publicized at all, Supervisor Knott? I mean, this is really significant work the county's doing. quietly, I think, and continuously, and it should be recognized. I'd like to know that the public is aware. I mean, I wasn't aware of all that until we spoke the other day, and I'm sure there are plenty of people that are, but I'm sure there are plenty of people who aren't. And I think it's really important that people understand that this is just mainstream. This is just happening.
So, our first project was a number of years ago. We did our first energy project at the public safety building, the jail, and the sheriff's office and 911 center. And that was a very large project. And after that was done for a year or so, we did some good analysis of it to prove that we had some substantial savings. And there was some press releases that actually Centrica, the energy company that's doing those, they're actually using that as a case example in their demos. They constantly do NICEC meetings all around the state, and they are actually using that project as a model. So yes, that got some publicity on that one, and I know the county took that, and we ran with it. Chairman did a press release on that as well too, and I can share that with this committee. The DSS or the DMV project that's ongoing right now, that's still in the midst of construction. The roofs are done. A number of the pieces of equipment are done. Due to supply chain issues, the solar at the highway garage roof is being delayed. But yeah, we can certainly advertise these things, and I think we should do a better job of promoting the fact that the county is actively doing these things. And these are huge energy saving things. We talk about people doing heat pumps and stuff in their homes, and that's a great thing. Those are good small items, but some of these projects are, saving substantial money. I can tell you when we did the jail years ago, we lowered the energy costs out there by about $60,000 a year in energy savings. That's
Wow.
a big number, So yeah, I'm happy to share any information with those projects that you'd like. But again, if we can capture money, we don't have a problem spending it. We got projects going on. The county owns a lot of building and uses a lot of energy. So any of it we can offset with grants is a great thing. So thanks for that.
Tara and Jolene, do any of those projects that Supervisor Knott went through, you think fit this DEC Climate Smart Grant Program better than others?
So all of the grants that go through the Climate Smart program they can't be mitigation based. So anything that's reducing greenhouse gas emissions and the reason is because NYSERDA has funding through the Clean Energy Communities program. So projects that are adaptation and resilience and planning based for the Climate Smart program. I'd have to pull up the full list, but basically that's kind of the breakdown. So solar and heat pumps and things like that would be clean energy, whereas the 50-50 Climate Smart match grants would be, things like resilience and adaptation and items like that.
That's really helpful. Thank you for clarifying that. So it may not actually be much of a source of funding for matching or offsetting some of the costs of some of those projects, unless they are, can be characterized as adaptive or leading to climate resilience, and perhaps some of them can be, or planning. What really sticks out to me is this idea of a more robust greenhouse gas inventory, or a climate, I thought they funded climate action plans, which are really mitigation focused, the DEC grants. I've seen those.
Yes,
But that's
they do.
planning.
Planning, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So, I mean, those are things that are coming down, that I don't know what it really would cost to work with like eClay or one of these other consultants on a broader community-wide greenhouse gas inventory. And I also don't know what the timing is for us to complete the municipal one that we just voted on. But if this timing works, it would be great and we were able to raise more money. So we have the matching funds in the NYSERDA grants we've received. you know, could we, and that's another question, could we dedicate those clean energy NYSERDA grants, 5,000 for benchmarking plus the 15,000 we hope to get from the heat pump campaign? Could we actually use those toward greenhouse gas inventory, or are they restricted separately, the NYSERDA grants?
They have to be a project that directly impacts greenhouse gas emissions. So you're looking at kind of projects. They're a bit more flexible with the $5,000 grants or the designation grant that you just received, but the higher ones you have to have like actual metrics for the emissions. But there are some larger grants too in the NYSERDA program. Well versed in that, with New Lebanon getting 5,000 points and or soon to get 5,000 points and $70,000, which actually is 150,000 for a county size. So there's a lot of money out there on the table in the clean energy program that's match free as well, for projects, just to point that out.
But they are reimbursable also.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Brenda.
But do I understand correctly, there will be a municipal heat pump campaign or funding in the new year?
If we get 15, 10,
Municipal.
yeah,
Municipal.
are you talking about the heat pump campaign that we started the meeting with?
No, I'm talking about an additional, there's an incentive program for municipal buildings, county buildings or town buildings after the first of the year, or did I misunderstand that?
I think I mentioned that municipal buildings would count for separate points in the clean energy program. So instead of like the 200 or 500 points, I'm sorry, you get for a campaign, any building that's upgraded for the town would get 700 points in the program. So just even doing your library would count for that. And Steve is doing that too with New Lebanon. So,
but I'm thinking about Ron's statement that we're installing heat pumps in various buildings. Would that accumulate points for our plan?
that could work towards the clean energy program for the county, definitely.
So two things come to mind. Tara, it'd be great to work with Supervisor Knott, and I'm happy to help facilitate that, to really figure out what points and Wendy, what points we can request based on projects that have already completed, or we can expect to based on the projects that were outlined. It sounds like there's potentially quite a bit there. Okay, so not as straightforward as one might hope, but it looks like there's a path forward. And Steve, you have a lot of experience here, so I'm going to pick your brain too, to try to see how any of this applies to what we're doing at the county level.
Sure.
Supervisor Knott, I'm sorry, you had your hand up.
So yeah, two things. One, we did, when Wendy had been applying for points before, we did review a number of the past heat pump installations we've done in the county. Back to Brenda's point though, Centrica that we're working with on some of these larger energy projects for the county, they are developing the DSS project with the known NYSERDA money that's available right now to offset that project cost, but they are hopeful that with the Inflation Reduction Act, once that's figured out, it's saying, that there will be some additional revenue. And a lot of these have been done in tax credits for businesses in the past, but they are hopeful to try and make that work for county government or governments in general in the future. So that company is right on top of following all of this stuff, as I know Tara is too. So once that's figured out, the DSS project may well capture more of that, and actually maybe even the DMV project that we're just finishing up, and the solar that we were supposed to do this year at the DMV. Some of those things may qualify for larger. We're watching.
Thank you.
So Wendy, you looked at these past projects for points within the Climate Smart program. Did you also, or has anyone looked at them with regard to clean energy points?
I have not. I will do that today.
Oh, that would be great. I wasn't assuming that, but that would be tremendous. Now, Tara, how can you obtain clean energy points retroactively? And how far?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a period, it goes back to, I want to say they moved it to 2016 for some types of things, for like EV infrastructure, which wouldn't apply. It's only back to 2021. So there's certain pieces, but Wendy, I'm here if you have questions and want to go through that. I know the heat pumps have a more generous look back. And some of the other projects that Ron mentioned happened or are happening. So we can figure out how to get you guys. And the county's already at 700 points. Again, you need 3,000 points to reach the first threshold, but that isn't as unachievable as it seems. And that would be a $30,000 grant. So
Great. Well, that's very exciting. And then these points don't accrue until you've completed projects, I assume.
correct.
Great. Very exciting. Okay, well, we're going to continue to look at the DEC grants and others, and thank you so much to everyone for your input there. I don't know if there's any other thoughts or comments on that sprawling topic of grants. Okay. The last point or last well, one related kind of point is EV charging and specific point. We had a discussion this summer, for anyone that missed it or wasn't around, uh, with a contractor, plug-in stations online, about DC fast chargers, and a grant program that was available, may still be available, for offsetting much, if not all, of the capital cost of installing. These can be $150,000, $200,000 investments or more. And we really focused on there was some concerns raised about, which are legitimate, about the experiences that folks have had in towns early on with private contractors installing mainly level 2 chargers, and the quality, the reliability of those chargers. So that was one question that was raised by some folks. And the other question was around the cost of operating these things and paying for the fees to the software needed to run them and charge people for the power they're using. And if they're underutilized, it seems that they can actually cost the operator, the owner, the town, or the business that installs them some money. Particularly in a fast charging situation, that can be an issue, it seems, with demand charges if they're underutilized. So it's something that we need to be aware of and become more educated on. So we can talk about what grants might actually benefit and what models and locations might work. But I just bring this back up because it's so urgent a need, especially, the Tesla infrastructure throughout the country has been a game changer for people buying those cars. And that's a large part of why they've been able to sell so many of them. And there's an article I'll share in a bit. I don't know if anyone saw it in the Wall Street Journal this week about this topic, and just the projections for the number of electric vehicles that car companies, non-Tesla car companies, are planning on producing and selling in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. The infrastructure is not there for them. That's what the Inflation Reduction Act is in part trying to deal with. But we, everything is local, right? So if we can figure out how to get at least one non-Tesla fast charging station in the county in the near term, the next year or so, that would be a big boon. It would really help with tourism. It would help with local residents who wouldn't necessarily need a home charger. With these fast chargers, you can really, you're free to go and charge. It's maybe a half hour, 45 minutes. If it's adjacent to a supermarket or a place that you need to go to anyway, it's quite convenient. And within a half hour, 45 minutes, you can get 300 miles. So I'm bringing this back up not because I have an answer, but because I think it's an important, it's an essential topic for us to continue working on. So I don't know if anyone has any direct thoughts, but I would like to get a group together to work on this. So I don't know if there's anyone that would like to volunteer, and if so, please let me know, to look at what incentives are still available for offsetting the charges. And I sent an email to the person who presented to us this summer to ask that question. Haven't heard back yet. We'll look into that. And also just on the economics of the details of it. You know, what does it, let's say there was, just throwing out an idea, a public-private partnership of you know, the county working with Price Chopper or some supermarket or the landlord of that facility to help offset the capital costs of putting in a charger. And they were prepared the private business was prepared to take on the responsibility and the costs and the maintenance of the facility. What would that actually look like? And I don't know what that looks like from an economic standpoint, what the risk is, but it's something that I think we should be exploring. Brenda.
What's the size of the fast charging station? How many cars would it service at a given time? Is it 3 to 6 or 10?
It
I'm trying to
varies.
visualize it.
Teslas are typically, 8 or 10 or maybe more stalls. I mean, it varies based on, I think, what the infrastructure is and what they deem to be the expected demand in a particular area. Michael?
Well, at a minimum, it's one. The infrastructure that you'd need to set up one, though, is not totally duplicated with each additional one. I go to ones that have, let's say, 3 different plugs on them, depending on what kind of interface your car requires. But they can't all be used at the same time. So if you have a situation where you have 2 or 3 or 4 set up side by side, there's certain common infrastructure that would then reduce the cost shared by each one. You know, the civil engineering cost, the cost for pouring the concrete pad on which it sits and things like that.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Okay. Matthew.
Hi, David. No, I'd certainly be interested in helping you working on that. As a new EV owner, I've been learning a lot. I don't know how I don't know how, if we have stats on how often the fast chargers are used. I've been told that they diminish the life of the battery over time, but that could be apocryphal. I don't know if anybody has any knowledge about that. Is that not true? Michael, you're shaking your head.
Not true.
Not true. Good to know. Okay.
No,
I mean,
it's not that there is a typical usage cycle. It's that you want to put them where you will get users, which depending on how the revenue is shared, will over time pay for the expense. But that's the trick. This is kind of a demand driven, or it should be a demand driven thing, that you have to kind of estimate ahead of time how many cars per day are going to come by this place and have something to do while they're waiting, so that it helps to justify it. So there's a lot involved there. David, I'd be happy to participate in that discussion as well.
Great. Thank you. We'll continue working on trying to gather some more information, find out what we need to know. There's obviously a lot of details there that we really need to crack that code and come up with a game plan for how to move this forward. And hopefully that'll happen in the near term. So anyone else that's interested in working with us, that would be great. Just let me know. And we only have one more item, so then we'll be able to break unless folks have other matters. And it's a quick one, and it's a good one. It's good news. Wendy, the last item, I don't know if you're still on, Wendy, but we'll be applying for certification as a county, climate smart certification. When is that, Wendy?
It needs to be before January 6th, so I would like to do it just before the new year, so we can get that out and done. And then end of February, I think, is when we'll get the notification that we were successful.
Great. That is exciting.
Mhm.
Thank you for all that work.
Sure.
It is not an insignificant amount of work. That's all we have. So if anyone has anything else, I wanted to, yep, John, 1 minute. I wanted to also get a sense of the group. I didn't look at the calendar for January and when that first Thursday is to see if it looks like we can get, a critical mass of people. I just want to pull that up. John, go ahead while we're looking at that.
Okay, I wanted to say two things. First of all, this meeting is the richness of content is really inspiring, and I've really appreciated the getting the recording out fairly soon because I can pass it on to our volunteers, and they appreciate it. So I just want to thank Maureen, Oswald, David, whoever is involved in getting that, Wendy. Getting that out because that's just a super service. Second of all, I just wanted to say something about agriculture. Having spent my life in cities, I appreciate the agriculture we have, and I recognize that it's important for climate. And having Jennifer on this committee, I think, is a real asset. And I realize in New York State, according to the CLCPA slides from Jan Metzger, only 6% of emissions is from agriculture, but we're an agricultural county, so I suspect that it's a lot higher, but I don't know. And you have a lot of good regenerative farming in the county, and there's a lot of old-fashioned stuff. And anyways, so I hope that we find ways of raising the issues of the role of agriculture and helping to improve agriculture, around climate smart. And I think the fact that we have somebody like Jennifer on the committee is super. And I know we have a lot of people in Claverack who are very interested in this also, and we're trying to figure out how do we relate to these marvelous farms and support other farmers to do this. Anyway, so that's all. Thanks.
That's great, John. Thank you for that contribution. Yeah, we'll be looking at a lot of these questions hopefully in the year and to come and beyond as we get into a broader greenhouse gas inventory. It's something that I've been interested in for a long time. What does it mean that we're a county that's both agricultural and quite forested at the same time? We have both, and we're pretty sparsely populated. With despite the COVID boom and the 2000 boom and all that, we have a pretty stable population, so there's a lot of opportunities to look at what our current kind of emissions and sinks are from land use, and it's something that could be a model for other similar rural areas throughout the county, throughout the state and beyond. So it's a really interesting question, and I'm very curious to learn more about what that means for us as a county as we get into it. So that's a great way to end the meeting. I don't know if anyone has anything else. So the next meeting is the Thursday after the New Year's, January 5th, and I'll be here. But if folks, if you can send me a note if you know that that's not going to work. I just want to make sure. I mean, I don't envision us not having this meeting. We will have the meeting, but it would be nice to have a robust group of people. Thank you, Jennifer. Happy holidays to you, and we're looking forward to you joining. Brenda left. Happy holidays. That's all I have. So anyone else? All right. That's it. So thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, everyone.